Hi, Jeff Allen here. Another one of these videos on AI ethics. And what I want to cover in this video is how, reality versus science fiction. Okay. And I think this is a really key thing. I've been kind of working in this field, this, you know, technologies, different technologies, even communication software and telecommunication software and decision support systems and map systems, kind of making maps, and predictive analytics and business intelligence, and a lot of different language technologies for 3 decades now, and doing a lot of the service and stuff before that, but actually doing the technology part for 3 decades. And what I've seen along the things is, I 3 decades. I say I was doing a lot of innovation 3 decades ago. Now I'm doing a lot more automation now. But what I see in making presentations to decision makers, those are going to fund these things, right, for a long time, is that there's a I, kind of the joking thing is, I said this in a chat session yesterday on LinkedIn. People kind of laughed, and I said, I say this when I have to present to decision makers, people that will fund some significant projects. And I say that I usually tell people that only participate in the project as a geek. More than just a geek, I mean, as an expert on the topic. If they sign a clause, if the decision makers sign a clause, stakeholders, decision makers sign a clause, and the clause will be that you are all prohibited from watching or reading any science fiction movies or novels for the entire period of the project. And that made everybody laugh in the chat line. the audio call, right? But the reason I do that, and I've been doing this for about, I think, 9-ish years. Yeah, not quite 10, but between 8 and 9 years I've been saying this. Because I watch a lot of Marvel comics with my kids. My kids love Marvel comics, and I like it too, because it kind of shows the future. But I watch other stuff too. There's some other great, yeah. But there's Star Wars. I grew up with Star Wars, right? Star Trek and Star Wars. I grew up with that, right? Battlestar Galactica, right? And then you got all the science fiction stuff, Terminator, and all kinds of stuff, right? The future. And what happens in all these movies or books, and I was really into, I wanted to be an astronomer when I was an astronomer, astrophysicist, if you want, when I was between ages 12 and 17. So I was really thinking of the future. I read a lot of Arthur C. Clarke stuff and Robert Heinlein books, which are talking about the future. And then the whole Star Wars series came out just about that time. And I read all the books, and then I watched the movies, right? But the thing is that all these movies or books are tellings of future that we don't know, right? It's all tellings about what could be the future and things that we're not able to do, like get at light speed and the whole theory of relativity and being and the whole R.C. Clarke. I can remember when he was talking about the whole book that going faster than the speed of light and then coming back a long time later, and the people on Earth had aged quite significantly to the point where they have children now or grandchildren, and the person that had gone light speed had hardly aged at all. And all this is kind of like, it's the future, right? It's science fiction. We don't know. We don't know if it is. We think it is. That's what we think could happen, but we don't really know. We're guessing that, right? Now there are some live tests. There are a lot of research done, by different space agencies that kind of work on stuff like this, right? It's all about physics and that kind of stuff. But here, I think it's really important to distinguish between what they sell us in the movies and in science fiction books. The movies, I think, are a lot more impacting because they're visual, right? It's not just a book that you're reading; it's a whole visual experience and the audio experience, right? And you're watching it, you're seeing it, and you're hearing it, and actually you could maybe feel it too if they, because you sometimes you make the seats move, right, in the movie theater, so you can have a full experience, and so you're kind of, this is really impacting of how we perceive what the, I want to say the future, but perceive science fiction. And the problem is they sell us ideas that we can talk on our watch or talk on a universal translator through and and that is real time or on perfect online real time communication with the aliens, right? And there's no problems in communication. It's perfect until you watch the movie Arrival, right? And then it teaches you a whole nother thing about when the aliens arrive, right? And that's a great movie. Arrival is a really great movie. Called First Contact. First Contact is the name of the in other languages, like French and others, but it's called Arrival in English. I think it's a really good movie to kind of bring us back to reality versus all these other science fiction things and cartoons too. I mean, all these cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons I grew up with, the Flintstones and the Jetsons and all that, and you see MacGyver and all this stuff. I mean, it's all the same thing. It's all science fiction, right? Uh, Flintstones is actually kind of science fiction, right? If you think about it. And Jetsons it was great. But the whole problem that we're seeing here is that it's uh, these visual and reading experiences, we buy into this is where we can do now. And I think this is a really key thing to avoid. And that's why I bring up this whole thing of saying, to all the stakeholders and to the decision makers that I won't participate in projects unless they sign that they won't watch any of the science fiction movies or read any science fiction books, at least during the project, is that I don't want them to believe what they see in the movies. I don't want them to think that that's what we can be at, because that's what we're working on, right? We're working toward. But in a lot of cases, I honestly feel that some of the things that the movies tell us that we could have, I actually say to the stakeholders, I said, I'll be retired or dead by the time we get to that one. Now, I don't plan on dying in the next year. So I say it that way. So it's and I think I only like to work on things. I mean, I like to work on things that are the future, right? And for the future, but I really want to implement things that are real and productive and efficient and can actually help people do their work or whatever. And some things are just research, prototyping, right? But it won't help anybody in the end. And then, so it really has no users. The key thing to having something that works is you have users and they give you feedback, and then you can actually do it again and make it and actually have a lot more users and actually make it useful for a lot of people. But you can't make it useful if it's based on some expectations that are so high. And again, look at that, the hype cycle with expectations and time. And it kind of tells the story of how far it's going to take to get that expectations. So, you might want to adopt the idea of telling people, if we won't work on it unless you sign a contract and sign a clause that says this, right? Some people won't dare that. I do, but that's okay. That's my choice. But I want to make sure that what I'm going to do can be realized. It can be actually completed and is not just a pipe dream, right? Now, again, I want to be careful. I'm not saying that things are always pipe dreams and only hype, right? But I do believe that we can make things work, but we just have to make choices, right? It's all about prioritization. So that's my thoughts on how I deal with expectations, stakeholder expectations. Not all people do that. I dare to do it, but that's okay. I can no, I feel I can do that. And 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 I think I've had enough people, make LinkedIn recommendations for me over the past, 15 years that say that what I usually tend to do is it's pretty online. It's not going to be, it's pretty real. It's not just a bunch of, prototyping for just that sake. So that's my thoughts on that, and would like to hear back your thoughts on it. Thanks so much.